Let me ask you something. What if I told you some people are taxed every single day without any law, without any policy, without any government involved? And the worst part, they don't even know it's happening. There are people who work every day, earn every day, and still fall behind. Not because they are lazy, not because they are careless, but because the system they live in quietly extracts value from them at every step. This is not a visible tax. There is no receipt, no percentage, no official record, but it is real, and it is expensive. This is the invisible tax, and it is paid in four currencies: transport, food, time, stress. In the late 1970s, long before he became a global icon, Jay-Z grew up in Marcy houses. What the world sees today is the billionaire, the empire, the success. But what people ignore is the cost of the environment he came from. Because places like that do not just lack money, they impose hidden costs, daily, relentless, and those costs shape behavior long before wealth ever enters the picture. To the outside world, poverty looks simple. People assume, earn more, spend less, save the difference. A clean formula, logical, efficient. But that belief is built on a false assumption that everyone operates under the same conditions. They don't. Because for some people, every basic activity costs more. Not in theory. In reality. Start with movement. Transport. For someone with money, movement is controlled. They choose when to leave. They choose how to move. They choose comfort, speed, and safety. But for someone without money, movement becomes uncertainty. You wake up before sunrise, not because you are disciplined, but because you cannot afford delay. You step outside, already behind. Buses pass. Some are full. Some ignore you. Some demand a price that changed overnight. There is no consistency, no control, only reaction. When you finally get in, there is no space. You stand. You absorb heat, noise, pressure. Your body adjusts. Your mind absorbs stress before the day even begins. This is not transportation. This is depletion. And here is the mechanism. You are not just paying money to move. You are paying with energy, with focus, with physical stability. That cost compounds. Because by the time you arrive, you are already operating below capacity. Now extend that across months, years, decades. The invisible tax is not the fare. It is the reduction in performance. And in cities like Lagos, this pattern repeats at scale. Long queues, unpredictable pricing, endless waiting. Movement becomes a daily negotiation with uncertainty. And uncertainty is expensive. Now food. This is where the illusion becomes dangerous. People assume spending less equals saving. But in low-income environments, the opposite often happens. Because access is limited. If you have money, you buy in bulk. You reduce cost per unit. You store. You plan. You optimize. But if you don't, you buy in fragments. Daily purchases. Small quantities. Higher prices per portion. No storage advantage. No planning leverage. And over time, you spend more for less. Worse, the quality declines. Cheap food is engineered for affordability, not performance. High sugar, high oil, low nutritional value. It satisfies hunger, but it weakens output. And here is where the trap tightens. Food affects energy. Energy affects productivity. Productivity affects income. Income affects food. The loop closes. And the individual is blamed for a cycle they did not design. Across markets in Nairobi and Mumbai, the same pattern holds. Small purchases, higher long-term cost, lower long-term return. Now time, the most valuable asset and the most unevenly distributed. Everyone has 24 hours, but not everyone controls them. Control is the difference. For the wealthy, time is adjustable. For the poor, time is assigned. You wake early, you commute long, you work fixed hours, you return late. Then recovery begins. Not growth, recovery. And recovery consumes what little time remains. So development is postponed. Skills are delayed. Opportunities are missed, not from ignorance, but from exhaustion. Calculated. 2 hours lost daily to commuting. That is over 700 hours a year. That is not inconvenience. That is asset erosion. Because time, once spent, cannot be reinvested. And the less money you have, the more of it is taken. Time is not just passing. It is being extracted. Then comes the most dangerous component, stress. This is where the system becomes psychological. Because stress does not just affect how you feel. It alters how you decide. When survival is uncertain, the brain shifts. Long-term thinking becomes a luxury. Short-term relief becomes priority. You stop optimizing. You start coping. High-interest loans become acceptable. Risk is avoided, even when it could create growth. Opportunities are ignored, not because they are invisible, but because the mind is overloaded. This is not lack of intelligence. This is cognitive pressure. And under pressure, people make expensive decisions. Consistently, predictably, stress compounds silently. It reduces clarity. It shortens patience. It weakens discipline. And over time, it becomes part of identity. Now combine everything. Transport drains energy. Food weakens output. Time removes opportunity. Stress distorts judgment. Individually, each is manageable. Together, they create a closed system. A system where effort does not translate into progress. Where motion exists, but movement is limited. This is the invisible tax, and it explains a pattern most people misunderstand. Why people work hard and remain in the same position. Now look at how manipulation occurs. Not through force, through structure. Prices fluctuate unpredictably. Access is restricted. Options are limited. And when options shrink, decision quality declines. The system does not need to trap you physically. It only needs to reduce your choices. Because when choices are reduced, outcomes become predictable. Predictable systems produce predictable results. And those results are rarely in your favor. The consequences are long-term. Health deteriorates. Skills stagnate. Opportunities narrow. Financial mistakes increase. And over time, the gap between those with control and those without it expands. Not suddenly, gradually, quietly, until it becomes normal, until it becomes invisible. Now look at today. Cities like Lagos, Nairobi, and Mumbai operate under the same pattern. Different geography, same mechanics, rising transport costs, unstable food prices, longer work hours, higher stress levels. The invisible tax has not disappeared. It has scaled. Technology increased speed, but it did not remove pressure. In many cases, it intensified it. So how do you protect yourself? Not by ignoring the system, by understanding it. Because once you see the pattern, you can begin to interrupt it. You reduce exposure where possible. You optimize small decisions. You reclaim fragments of time. You improve input quality, food, information, environment. You avoid high-cost decisions made under pressure. You build slowly, deliberately, strategically, not emotionally. Because this is not about escaping overnight. That is an illusion. This is about reducing the tax, piece by piece, until it no longer controls your direction. Here is the reality. Poverty is not just a lack of money. It is a system of hidden costs. And those costs are designed to keep people reacting, instead of advancing. But once you identify the pattern, you stop moving blindly. You begin to move with intent. And that changes everything. Because the invisible tax only controls those who cannot see it. And now, you can. But here is where it becomes more dangerous. Because escaping poverty does not guarantee freedom. There are people who break out of this system, who suddenly gain access to money. More money than they have ever seen before. And yet, within a few years, they are right back where they started. Not because the money disappeared, but because the mindset never changed. Because the invisible tax was still operating, just in a different form. In lottery jackpot wins across the world, a pattern keeps repeating. Ordinary people become millionaires overnight. Sudden wealth. Total financial freedom. No more transport struggles. No more survival pressure. No more limits. At least, that is what the public believes. But behind the scenes, something else is happening. Money arrives faster than understanding. Spending increases before structure is built. Decisions are made under pressure, just at a higher scale. And slowly, the same cycle begins again. Only this time, the fall is harder. Next episode, why people who win the lottery still end up broke. One story, one pattern, one financial mistake, repeated at scale.